Yes, my name is Clinton Allen, and I'm going to be going over climate change and sea level rise in New York City. Okay. So before I get started, definitely there has been a change with the weather patterns in New York City. And a good example of that was for Hurricane Sandy. And that really just uh, pounded New York with extreme severe weather. There was a lot of flooding. There were major infrastructure uh, uh, areas in the city that were affected. It affected transportation, travel. It affected people in having resources such as food, power, water. I mean, climate change and the sea level rise definitely has a lot of risks and hazards uh, that can be very serious to even catastrophic, especially in a place like New York City, where historically the weather is not no, we're not known to have extreme weather, but that, like I said, that has changed in the last, I would say, 10 years. You have places in New York City that are not used to having rising sea levels. We're talking about areas that are not near coastal regions, such as you have the Rockaways, you have Breezy Point, you have certain areas, along in Brooklyn that that can be affected as well. You got the Bay Ridge area that's close to the water. I mean, there's a lot of areas that are used to getting hit with rising sea levels and the occasional erosion, occasional flash flooding. But when you talk about highland areas that are now also in line to getting affected as well, that shows you what the risks are with that. Definitely an increase in precipitation. The rainfall has definitely increased. With when it comes, usually there's some form of flash flooding happening. High tides as well. A lot of erosion with high tides, um, and even higher than normal than before. Damage to infrastructure. You have damage to erosion, bridges, tunnels. FDR Drive during Sandy was totally immersed in water, and that was not accessible for days. They had to do a lot of water draining, and that's right by the East River. So I mean, whenever I know before years ago, whenever there was like maybe some rain, there would be some water coming onto the FDR Drive. But I mean, like I said, using the best example that I could think of is Hurricane Sandy, and I mean, just it was totally covered in water. It was like it was the river was already there. Um, you also have damage to bridges as well, water damage, and to combat that, engineers are having to come up with ways how they can make infrastructure stronger. So you have bridges that need to be fortified. You have tunnels that also need to be fortified. You have to in the way they're being built, or if they need to be, they have to do extra work to renovate them to prevent water uh, and flooding, um, to prevent them from eroding and causing harm to people that use them daily, and also the surrounding neighborhoods and communities which they're built in. Um, skyscrapers, you have skyscrapers that are built to withstand a lot of wind. But even though, I mean, they have a foundation. So I mean, if they're, you have them skyscrapers and tall buildings that's near water, a lot of times, sometimes the way how they're built, if you have a lot of flash flooding, that could also affect not only the structure, but it could affect power. It could affect, the way how that building, if that building has occupants in it, or even if it's just a building that's for industry, it could greatly affect the operation inside that building. Cultural institutions, churches. You have churches that were built over 100 years ago, 200 years ago, And that infrastructure back then, even though solid, the way how they built churches, but still, um, that's 100 years worth of cement, and you don't know if that foundation is that strong to take water and rising water and water that's trying to eat up at the foundation due to the rise of the sea levels. So especially like I said, especially if they're close to those waterways, that's definitely a problem for flash flooding and flooding dangers. And I mentioned flash floodings, and flooding has become more common. Like I said, when it rains, you have flash flooding. But this is a problem because you have a lot of people that live in low-lying areas, and that it can be very costly, and also it's a danger. It's a danger to them. It's a danger to their families. Every time there's rain and there's a flash flood, then that means that people have flooded basements. That could compromise their power. That could compromise a whole lot of things. It can create fires. So these are definitely hazards that need to be mitigated. And as the time goes on, if this is not corrected, it's gonna cause a lot of problems for people. All right. So impacts for human and social economical. So like citizens, they have to adjust to the rising sea level with transportation, housing, and infrastructure. So as far as regular people going to work, children going to school, regular commuting back and forth, transportation. So we're in New York City, so the MTA is going to have to come up with plans in how to combat the rising sea level, positioning of where they store their buses at bus depots, bus routes, also subways. Do they have the proper draining equipment to combat flooding in the subway? There was a storm that I believe happened a couple of years ago, and there was a subway station that was totally immersed in water. I believe it was Sandy as well. It was totally immersed in water, and it was like an aqueduct. You had to have a dive team go down there. I mean, it was just surreal. NYCHA, if it's public housing or if it's private housing, they're going to have to come up with plans and how to strengthen their infrastructure, come up with combating ways of how to prevent the infrastructure against the rising waters. And this also can affect how people interact with each other. Um, Businesses could be altered, religious gatherings, typical, business with the public. And, if you have businesses that are near water or, they're affected by being in the path, then this is a problem. And this will cause people to lose businesses, lose money, lose revenue, people lose faith in the business. And, this will definitely hurt that economical and social relationship within the city. So yes, also with that being said, state and government spending for improving the infrastructure, that's more money that they have to send out to protect these businesses, protect state and government operations and businesses as well. And with that being said, this can cause a rollover of increase in real estate cost, transportation of persons and goods and services. So you have many routes, many highways, many roadways in New York State, New York City, that these different modes of transportation have to travel through to deliver goods and services. You have the several food depots within the city that provide not only food for people in the city, but people from in the region. So this is very important. I mean, if you have rising sea levels getting in the way of how these goods and services are moved around, then it's a serious problem. It's not just going to affect; it's going to affect human, social, and economical. So mitigation for rising sea levels would be decreasing the carbon footprint for fossil fuels and introducing the use of green energy with vehicles, factories, and industry. Uh, Introduction of using more electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, less fossil fuels, less gas. I believe in the next couple of years, there are a lot of car manufacturers that want to definitely reduce the amount of uh, vehicles that they do produce that uses gasoline and moving toward using electric vehicles. Reducing waste consumption, sanitation department, reducing waste consumption in landfills, moving forward to more uh, green options as far as recycling, composting, um, using trash as far as turning into energy. I know that Department of Sanitation, and also they have some sanitation companies across the water over in Europe that they have a system where they use the trash and they make it into hydro energy, which is very important. So I can see that moving forward at some point here in the United States, especially with President Biden and Mayor de Blasio. They have big campaigns as far as going green. And with going green, and reducing the carbon footprint as far as vehicles, that eliminates smog entering the atmosphere, and helping to strengthen the ozone layer by not allowing those fossil fuels and taking more vehicles off the road. I know in New York City, Mayor de Blasio has definitely added more bike lanes in parks and on the roadways, eliminating a lot of the streets, making pathways and bike lanes for bikers to go through, and that cuts down on the emissions affecting the atmosphere that affect climate change in the atmosphere. Um, Encouraging more people to take mass transit during the week, leaving their cars at home, carpooling, using HOV lanes, and also, like I said, riding bikes, and establishing bans on illegal dumping in city waterways. I know I'm from New York, and I grew up here in New York City, so I remember a lot of people didn't like going to beaches because syringes used to wash up on the beach. The waters were not clean, so a lot of people would just you'd be at your own risk to enter the water. But now, from those days until now, the waters have significantly gotten more cleaner. There was high penalties and fines, even jail times for people or companies that were found dumping trash and all kind of matter into the water. So definitely, I see that becoming an issue where the water is going to get cleaner. Wildlife is have returned back into certain areas based on that as well. So in conclusion, New York City has a green infrastructure plan of New York City becoming a more greener city. They have a vision starting from now all the way, I believe, up to 2050, 2030, 2050, which will greatly improve, the atmosphere for the city, eliminating the carbon footprint, reducing smog in the atmosphere, encouraging more people to ride bikes, encouraging more people to just to get away from using so much fossil fuels, and thinking green. Also, within their own homes, using more energy efficient lighting and things of that nature. But all these efforts will help to clean up the atmosphere. It will help also to cut back on people, dumping things that are not supposed to be dumped. People using more energy efficient options to improve the atmosphere. So this will help to help cut back on a lot of the global warming, and it's going to be done in stages, and preventing the rise in the sea level. So this concludes my presentation, and thank you.